Hi there, I'm Sharad. Every week I analyze the stocks and we run an algorithm on a daily basis, on a weekly basis to identify stocks which are fundamentally strong and showing strengths. And we take positions on that and we also make recommendations on that. However, this is purely academic and based on my personal experience. Don't take it as an investment advice. Behind the scenes, I am supported by Aman, who helps me in identifying these stocks and also inferring the results. So, what happened in the week of last week of, for that matter, May? Now we are into it, but this is just the fourth week which we are covering, and immediately after this are the results. So the volatility because of that is definitely increasing, but here is a quick snapshot of what has happened in Nifty in the last week. Nifty was up by 2.19%, and it in fact got to a new high of 22,957 with 29 advances and 21 declines. Mid cap 50 up by 1.02%, and the trend continuing with the lesser amount of selling from FIs, because in between there is also buying. So in fact it has been bought because for most part it has been uh, you know selling. That is why we got it as red over here, but actually FI is bought this week for 1165 crores and DI is bought for 6977 crores. So this is after a very long gap. For that matter, we have gotten a buy from FIs, a week wherein there was a positive purchase. So that's also partially because of the fact that there is a little bit of momentum back or clarity that the government would be the same, or at least it would be BJP. And the other thing is also the fact that there was a dividend announced by RBI to the government, which resulted in a lot of at least positivity building in the market. We'll cover that as part of the news in the next section. And in terms of the industry sectors which demonstrated strength, media was up by 4.7%, metal up by 3.9%, energy up by 3.3%, and FMCG up by 0.7%. And construction stocks definitely did very well during this week. So pretty much a good week, the last one. And as part of this bulletin, we always cover the fundamental aspects, what is happening, and also the sentimental aspects of the market, because ultimately the market is all about making sure that you get your fundamentals correct and keep your sentiments in check. And as part of this bulletin, we cover quote from somebody who's an established investor, and today we have got a quote from Saint Klaraman. He's a CEO for Baupast Group, which is a very good established hedge fund, and he's been the founder for that. And what he says is the stock market is a story of cycles and of the human behavior that is responsible for overreactions in both directions. This is so true. Whether you study the supply chain, or whether you study the stock market, or whether you study the marketing, or for that matter social media, depending upon how the mood is shifting, typically most people will overreact on that. And in supply chain it is called as bullwhip effect, and in case of stock market, what we see is a stock which is in momentum, despite having crazy valuations, people will buy it. So that's what he's trying to indicate, that when there is positivity, people just try to ride on that positivity and overreact on it, and if there is negativity, then people have a very very pessimistic approach and they want to sell everything and just move away from the market. So that's what he is trying to indicate over there, and that's very true. And ideally the person who is investing in the market should be aware of this situation and always have a balance on it. That's what we interpret and infer of this. Now, in terms of the news that primarily made this week, which affects the stock market, the first one being the RBI dividend, as I mentioned. RBI has indicated a record dividend payout to the government, and for that matter, because this dividend is there now for the government, which comes into function after the elections, either way it is going to be beneficial in a short term, because there will be budget for the government to spend, and this is significant amount of money. If we compare it with FY23, it's approximately more by 40%, which means either the government can use it to reduce the fiscal deficit or take the expenditure to construct new things. Now, of course, the stock market would expect it to do the later, but either ways, it definitely affects the markets pretty well, and markets have received this very well. One of the reasons that market stayed positive last week was because of this. Now, the second part is the Adani ports will be included in the Sensex stocks, and that is why it has resulted in spike for both Adani Enterprise and Adani ports going up significantly in the last week, and it will be replacing Wipro. There is a lot of positivity from the monsoon forecast also, because it's expected to be a normal monsoon season, and it means that the rural markets will have a boom time to a certain extent, and that should give a lot of momentum to some of the companies which trade in the rural economy more, and also the positive effect on the food production. And the last point being the fact that BDL stock split, and the stock has gone up by 55% in last 2 weeks. Now, what's interesting for everybody who's at least watching this video is that when a stock splits, it doesn't mean that you're getting two stocks. It's just the valuation is splitting by half. It is going to get traded more to a certain extent, but you still own the same amount of pie. So, but in the markets, usually what is seen is that the moment the stock is split, there is euphoria because there's more trading around it, and the stock gains momentum. Ideally, whenever there is a stock split, there should not be much change in the price. It was trading at 300 now, or for that matter, in case of BDL, I think it was around 2,500. It should be around 1,200. It should just divide by 2. But there was euphoria built into it, and then even the day when the stock got split, it went up by 8% if you see the effective outcome. So there is a lot of euphoria around it, but I feel it's anybody who's investing with fundamentals should not take this news with a lot of positivity, or they should just consider that the valuations are same, but it has been split into half, the trading in this part of it. So that was news this week. Now we move to the next part of it, which is the results this week. The first one being the NTPC. What we saw over there was the revenue up by 7.6%. And the net profits up by 33% year on year, with a final dividend of rupees 3.25 being announced. And the amount of electricity produced was also a record high in the FY24. Overall, there is positive growth in revenue and electricity generation. However, the profit picture is mixed, with a significant increase in consolidated profit, but a slight dip in standard due to higher taxes levied in those segments. So that's one of the reasons that the markets have taken it with a caution, and in a shorter term there might be a dip, and at that point in time you can make investments. But if you are a long-term investor, stay invested, or for that matter you can take a buy at this pricing also. So that was NTPC, which is a sector which is booming and definitely gets impacted big time by results, because the movement, depending upon the government, their approach to energy is always very different. One government which will think about freebies, there is another government which might not consider it that strongly. So that was NTPC. The next one being the ITC. Overall results were very mixed for that matter. Revenue up by share 1.4%, and net profit down by 1.3%. Expenses rose by 2.4%, and hence causing the decline in the profit. Now there is also a decline in some of the segments in which it actually wanted to grow, like agriculture, paper boards, and paper and packaging. So it is expecting an revival in the growth, in the demand, and the overall commentary from the management was positive, and that is why what we believe is that the coming quarters should result in good outcomes, and definitely the consumption, as in the previous slides we have seen, should improve, especially from the rural economy, and this being one of the companies which also depends upon rural economy, should start improving. So we do maintain a strong buy on dip for long-term investor, and for us short-term investor, definitely it is a sell at this point in time given the results. In terms of the momentum, it hasn't shown any strong momentum either ways. This is one of the stocks which has been like stagnant for very long, then it picked up. Now it has been stagnant in between 400 and 450 from quite long, so it's something you can stay patient with for that matter. The third one being from the pharma company, that is the Sun Pharma. We saw revenue up by 9.6%, net profit also up by 34%, sales increased by 10.2%. So there is a lot of positivity over here. US sales rose by 11%, and what the overall markets have seen is slightly negative. But what we believe is that for a long-term investor, it's still a good buy at this price. And if you want to play in the pharma sector, this is definitely one good stock to invest your money in. So those were the results for this week. That brings us to the last part of the bulletin. That's the stocks which are demonstrating technical strength. Now, we had a good set of stocks last week and we had recommended them. They've done pretty well, like Polycab did very well. Fin Cables we had talked about in the week prior to that, and TVS Holding. We still maintain some of those stocks, but some of them we have exited, which have given us more than 5 to 7%. This week has been brought in good set of stocks. However, we feel that the markets are slightly overpriced, especially the stocks which have been running up for the last few months. So we're not making a long list of recommendations. The only two stocks which are also slightly on the higher side, and we will be taking conservative positions on this, are the Biocon and Bharat Forge for this. And now these are purely based, the Bharat Forge is definitely purely based upon the price momentum. And Biocon is still value pick for that matter at this point in time. So these are two stocks that we recommend at this point in time for this week, although there's a list which I can quickly scan through and show it to you. So here is a list of stocks that we have. Balkrishna Industries, Cummins India is definitely good. Escorts we had recommended, but it hasn't gone up that much. Polycab we have already invested. JWL, Marksons and TVS Holding. However, we are only picking up for now Bharat Forge and Biocon. These are two that we are picking up. So that was pretty much what we had for this week. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Hopefully you do good trades and invest wisely. Keep it in mind that stock market is about fundamentals and sentiments at the same time. In short term it is sentiments, and in long term it is fundamentals. So whenever you pick a stock, always pick a value pick, and if you are trying to do trading, pick up value picks which are showing price momentum. With that, we bring it to an end. I'll see you in the next week. Bye for now.